Having coached both in the North American LCS and now the European LCS, I think the biggest difference is the player mentality. Players in Europe are a lot more blunt with each other. They're a lot more willing to share their opinions or have their own opinions about the game, whereas people in North America give a lot more control to both their coaches and their organization. I think also in general, from the people I've spoken to in Europe, there's a lot less focus on coaching staff here in Europe, which I guess leads to that player independence, but at the same time, like, it has its strengths and its weaknesses. Yeah, I think the broadcast in the European LCS focuses a bit more on coaches, whereas in the NA LCS it's almost purely player focused. Because League is constantly evolving, we spend a lot more time focusing on the next match and what we need to prepare for our next opponent than retroactively looking at our games. Of course, we'll still review our matches, we'll still have a debrief over what went well and what went poorly, but just because of the constantly evolving metagame, it's almost always forward focused. So when you're talking about preparation for a League of Legends match, actually a lot of it is done in the week before we actually play the match on stage. You have to be practicing with appropriate drafts, spreading your champion practice out correctly and efficiently. I think if you go on match day and you have to have a lot of meetings or preparation or things like this, it's kind of inefficient in a way. Like, most of the work needs to and should be done beforehand by both the coaching staff and the players. So I think it's best to have a relaxed attitude on game day in general, to kind of ease pressure and have a lot of the work done beforehand. We don't have like a lot of super important pregame rituals. After working with our sports psychologist, I know some players do breathing exercises. Things like this can help a lot for stage nerves. Sometimes we'll have a meeting where we'll go over some of the early games, like first 2 or 3 levels of the game, because that can be pretty important, and I think that is something that's easier to front load before the match because it needs to be like in your short-term memory. I think after our losses at Rift Rivals, not taking teams for granted is pretty ingrained in our mentality now. Like, we understand what needs to be done. I think we understand most, if not like a lot of the mistakes that we made moving into Rift Rivals from both a preparation and just like a play perspective. So I think everyone's kind of all focused on the same objective right now. So hopefully when we get to Worlds, we'll do better.